Okay, so let's continue from where we left off. So here, let's move on to the next one. We're looking at forms as objects. So when we do the practical, which I'm hoping maybe we'll do it next week or so, we will just design a software, excuse me, by starting with what we call a form. A form is a form. If you go to construction sites, the form is what is used to mold, okay, the pillars, and a lot of construction work require some sort of form. So the form can be looked at as the canvas on which you are designing. So we'll be placing what we call controls on the form. So this is interface design I'm talking about right now. Are you okay? So we can now, resize, we can put buttons on it, we can put text boxes on it so that the user can click it. So like I said, I showed you earlier, we have a lot of applications on our computers, okay, and most of them are form applications, Windows Forms applications. So I'm going to show you one right now that I just switched on, this one. So this application is a form. Everything on it is some kind of, this is a checkbox, okay, this is a button, the OK button, this is a button for close. Then we can now insert in, hey, I just saw my head move in a very funny way. All right. I think network is bad, eh? I'm still connected. So in designing programs, the interface makes use of the form. So we need to find a way to interact with the form. So the form itself is a class of its own. It's an object. And we remember that objects are actually placed into classes. Are you okay? Or every class is a set of objects that define a class. So public class form. So this is how you write a code to define a form, to make references to a form. So forms are graphical objects that make up your user interface. Okay. So when the time you create a form, then you can write code in between the beginning and end of the form. So a lot of code can be written here to get some job done. Are you okay? And then once you run the form, when you click it, when you print something, it will be executed. So we can have more than one subroutine, what we call subroutine. So in programming, subroutines like a method. Are you okay? Just a method, functions, methods, subroutines. Yeah. So procedures, methods, they're all the same thing. It's just like how to wash in a smart way, like the washing machine. So it makes use of a procedure. How doctors do surgery is a procedure, it's a method. Are you okay? How to prepare banku is a method. So guys, that's the sort of thing that you are learning in this class, how to write those algorithms and to transform them into, are you okay, user interfaces. So user interfaces allow the user to interact with your application. Okay, so this is print my job. This can be initiate, program, so that anytime the user clicks on something, it comes and initiate, clicks on the other one. You can have close as well. So you can have close, so that when the user clicks on close, then this will be executed. Everything here will be executed. So the form contains so many objects, controls that the user can interact with, and as he interacts with it, a set of code is run with that. This applies to web application and desktop application. Okay, so very important to see the form as an object. Except in web design, we don't really look at the form like that. We look at the browser itself as, the main form that you want. But I'm not teaching web design here, so that's one. All right, so forms. So here in this form, we can have a subroutine, which is create new form. And so here we do what we call declaring of variables, in which we make use of the keyword dime. So dime new form one as new. So what you see in blue, so in the syntax of Visual Basic, the keywords are in a certain color, and then the other words that we are writing, other variables and function names, object names, are in another color. So dime is a keyword, as is a keyword, new is a keyword, and they cannot be used as variable names. We talk about variable names. Obviously, that's the next topic. Okay, so variables are convenient placeholders that refers to computer memory location where you can store program information that may change during the time. So variable means it can change. That's why when Robert said, okay, it depends on the on the bearing that you're giving me. Okay, if you want me to write a program to tell you which quadrant, it will depend on the bearing. That means in your program, you need to put a variable that will take all possible values, okay, for bearing. So 0 to 316. All right. Now, when you put in a value into the computer, it gets stored in a memory location. Are you okay? It gets stored in a memory location. We should put that in our mind. So without memory, your computer doesn't work. Without memory, your phone, smartphone doesn't work. All because it needs that to run. Are you okay? There should be a temporary location where data is kept. All right, great. So a variable, example of a variable is click count, and then it should be named in a very nice way. We can identify with the temp, can be temperature. Okay. All right. Now, once you declare a variable, you can now make reference to the variable anywhere in the code. And depending on whether the scope of the variable is local or global, then you can access it or you may not be able to access it. Are you okay? So we can talk about local, scope of a variable and the lifetime of a variable. Okay. So you can use the dime statement. So dim or dime, depends on where you come from, can be used to define a variable. Are you okay? So dime. So dime, degree Fahrenheit. So we do a practical, so you get to know this. So don't worry about it. So degree Fahrenheit then becomes a variable name, and there's a convention for how to, excuse me, name a variable. Now, public my star a string is also a way of declaring my string as a variable, and this is the data type. Usually, there should be a data type. So data types, examples are like, real numbers, whole numbers, integers, for those who haven't programmed before. And then in programming, we have what we call the double. We have short integer, long integer. We have Boolean. Boolean is storing true or false. Are you okay? They have date if you want to keep date. Date is very important in every program. ECG need date to tell you when you last topped up, etc. Okay. All right. So variable naming, the rules are here. So you just check it as a student. Make sure you are not violating them. Name variables in a way that makes sense. Some of you, when you name your folder on your pen drive, name it Basa. Everything you write, David. Everywhere write David. Every file is called David. Are you with me? No, give it names that are real. This one is job 1, job 2. You can even add date to it. This one is survey at somewhere. This one is so when you name things, let it make sense. Like people giving funny names to people, like parents giving funny names to their babies. There's a white lady called Anne Raw Bottom, and you wonder, why we give such a name to a person. But anyway, they have the freedom. Yeah, we are in those days where freedom of expression is like really, really trending. Okay, variable name should suit the variable it represents. Okay, so don't give a name that doesn't make sense. You can start a name with a lowercase abbreviation that tells which. In fact, we have what we call the camel case. Are you okay? Lowercase, uppercase. Are you okay? You can have the snake case. Okay, all right. So these are interesting ways of naming, writing names. Are you okay? So we have camel case, snake case. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really, that's not my focus. My focus is not to talk about, but at least you know lowercase, uppercase, like small letters and capital letters. All right. So that is basically it. Okay, the camel case, obviously, you know the camel has the back, that's hunch at the back or something like that. And so you be having some capital letters beginning, and then you have the snake case, everything will lie down low, small letters. All right, I think you have the Pascal keys. So there are different cases, but obviously you can read about them and get to know, okay, what they are. So where are we? Variable names shouldn't be too long. They shouldn't go beyond a certain number, okay. Variable names should follow a standard rule. They shouldn't begin with a number. So don't start naming a variable by saying 1x, for example, like it's a bad name. You shouldn't put a period sign. Why? Because the period sign is used to get the property of an object or to set it to get a method. So don't use period sign. So you name in a file, you name it France.bright, bad naming. Are you okay? All right. So variable names should not exceed 255 characters. Variable name should exceed, so you don't name it very long. That's what we are saying. And it should be unique. You don't name one variable car. You go another place, say this one too is car. That's madness. You don't do that. So that is basically it on this one. And I'm quickly going to see if I can talk about another thing quickly. So your assignment, this is to write an algorithm to determine what do you want to do as an assignment. I'm going to give it to you. To find a bearing between two coordinates. Try it and let's see. Maybe you can do it. So guys, your assignment is to find a bearing between two stations, control stations. Write it down. Your assignment is to find a bearing between two control stations. Your assignment is to write an algorithm. Don't do a flow chart. Just do the algorithm so that I don't want to punish it too much. Okay, so write an algorithm to determine the bearing between two control stations. So points with XY coordinates. Are you with me? So do it for me, and then you can share with me when you're ready. Okay, scope of variables, like I said, you can declare a variable. It will be accessible at certain part of the code and not accessible within a certain part of the code. So that is a scope. When we say scope, it's an English word. So you can answer this question in an exam without even attending this lecture. But be careful, you can also get it wrong totally, because sometimes that's not what it means. You may be thinking the question is about. It's like saying UTM and someone goes and Google it and gets some funny meaning of UTM. We are talking about universal transverse mercator. All right, lifetime of a variable is that means that so anything with life means that it can die. So variables can die. Are you okay? They can actually be destroyed. Are you okay? Can kill them so that they don't have any value at all. Lifetime of a variable depends on how long it exists. Sometimes a variable doesn't exist. It's not even there. Are you okay? So lifetime of a script level, blah blah blah, procedure level. So yeah, local variables, global variables. Yeah. If it's a local variable, you can access it globally, which means I remember that we wrote different subroutines within the same class. So we can actually access only part of it. Okay, so assigning values to variables. There are two types of variables. You have the scalar variable and you have the array variable. So assignment is from the right to the left. So this statement here means give 200 to B. Assign 200 to the variable B. Here it means give the value 20 to the variable speed1, and you can write one speed. Remember that we don't start variable name with a number. All right, then we have t equal to +1. We've explained that means t equal to t +1. Okay, and then moving on, scalar variables, array variables. Scalar variables contain just one single value. Array variables contains many. Okay, variables. All right, so this is what it is. Array variables means, like, for example, this is how we declare an array variable. We use dim a10. That means you're actually dimensioning an array variable. Okay, let me go to my whiteboard and see if I can show you something. Oh my god, that's going. Okay, so back to my whiteboard. Let's talk about array variables, and let's play around with the variables and see. Alrighty, so in Visual Basic, we write dim a1 as integer, Okay, what does this mean? It means go and create a memory location to store integers. Okay, so that means I can now carry on and use the A. So A1 has been declared. In other programming languages, if you don't declare a variable, you cannot use them. So A1 is equal to 2 makes sense, but you can't say A1 equal to 2.2. It will either force it to round it up and make it 2, or it will just throw an error, depending on the system that is being used. Okay, so this is called a scalar variable. Scalar variable. All right, let me just do this. And writing on the board is becoming a bit tedious. Okay, let me do this way. So dim a as, so the as has to be like this. In fact, the program that we are using to develop the program, the IDE, the development environment, will correct some of the mistakes. It's called IntelliSense. Are you okay? It can correct you as you go, as double. So now real numbers, you use this data type called double for real numbers. Okay, so I'm teaching you data types at the same time teaching you the variable. This is scalar variable because it stores one single value. So we can now say a equal to a plus 1. Okay, that will make sense. We can initially set a to be 28.2. Then we can now see that this a's value, when we reach this line, a's value is going to be 29.2. Okay, so this addition is possible. One, we've declared the variable a, we've made an assignment which is correct because it's a real number, double, and then let's move on. Okay, so this is how Visual Basic works. Now, these are all labeled. These are lines. Line number 1, line number 2, line number 3. But you won't see these numbers, but it knows which line you're on. Okay. All right. And so I want to talk about array variables. Array variables. Then we can just dim A3 as, then we put a data type, or we may choose not to, depends on the particular environment. Okay, so we want to give a set of integers. Array variables, an array of things. It's English language. It means there are so many of them, but they are aligned. Okay, so normally you have just one. It's like a vector. Okay, when it comes to array variables. So now what do we mean by this? It means we want to store 4 objects. Okay, so A, then we have to retrieve the members of this array object. We just put an index. Okay, so this is the size, and this is an index. What's the difference? The difference is that the dim statement is being used, so we are dimensioning it and we need the size. We are declaring it an array and we need the size of the array to declare it. Okay, just like opening a bank account and going for the gold option or the platinum option. Doesn't mean you have put any money in there, but maybe there's some benefits for creating. We are hoping that you're a rich person. I remember I opened a corporate account with StanChart, and one day they called me and said we are closing down because your balance is not up to. At that time they're looking for, I think, is it 20,000 or something minimum? And I was like, you kidding me? Go ahead and close it. So that is the whole idea of dimensioning or declaring array variables. The size is very important. The index is used to retrieve the value. So in this case, we haven't set any value. So we can actually, this is how you do it. I am actually setting a value of 5 to the 0 index. So this is how Visual Basic does indexing. And what's an index? An index allows you to arrange things and to order things. So they are also unique, like your index number. Okay. So at the moment, I think I can only see my teeth in the video. I might as well just switch it off. It's not looking okay. Yes, my teeth showing up there. Okay, so here, A1 equal to 4. It means we are assigning integers with the index. Okay, so now 0, 1, 2, it means 3 objects. Are you okay? So that is how we assign values to an array variable called A with dimension 3. Okay. So this is how it works. An array with 3 elements, and then we are assigning 3 objects. So now if you want to actually manipulate the array, we can change this particular one, we can change it by simply putting a new value. Are you okay? Or we can just get it and then add something to it. So we can just see whatever is in this plus 2 and then assign it to A2. It will take the second element and then insert it into the third element. Now the third element has index 2. Remember, because you are starting from 0, the indexing is from 0. Okay. Excuse me. All right, any question? I think at this point, you probably have a question. Yes, a question, or you're following what I'm doing? It's not there. I'm also.
Yes, sir, we are following. So I'm following.
Any question? That's the question. Any question? Oh, you are okay.
Yeah, for now we are okay.
For now, I'll mark you. I'll give you 0 if you don't tell me what your problem is. So you say for now. Are you good? But if you are not,
I'm good.
Fine. So that's it. Yeah, so you can have multi-dimensional arrays. In that case, that look more like a matrix. Is that okay? So you can have 3, 3. Is that okay? So that's looking more like a 4x4 matrix. Is that okay? All right, so let me quickly visit my notes. So multi-dimensional arrays. So here we have my table 510. That means that the variable is a multi-dimensional array, which is named my table, and the dimension is 6 by 11 because of the zero indexing. When you see 5, it is 6. When you see 10, it is 11. When you see 4, it's 5. So that is it for scalar variables. We have what we call the access levels in Visual Basic. The access level tells you whether you can access the variable. It's just as simple as that. So we can have public, you can have private, you can have public friend, you can have protected. Are you okay? They all determine whether you can access it from different class. Are you okay? Or from a different project of within a local scope. Are you okay? So here, private x1 as integer, it means you can access the variable x1 only within the module. You can't get it outside the module. So this is what you do in programming. You just don't write one program and put it there. You write one class, okay, and you write another class, then you write another class, so many classes, and the classes will be talking together. It's not as simple as what I'm saying. This is just introducing you to the IDM. Okay. All right. So when we start with the practical, you see what is on the board right now a lot of times. But we're going to end the class by touching quickly on the data type and then see how far we go with it. Data types, I've already said it. When you see double, it's like real number. When you see single, it gives us the range of values that we can actually have. 3 point exponent 10 to the power 38 to that. So the negative, and it's like an integer with a different range of values that can be used. Look at the negative value here is very large compared to the negative value in the integer type. Are you okay? Then we have string. String is like your name, tests. Are you okay? Now with strings, you can't do arithmetic operations like 2 times. If it's a string, you come at like 2 times Kwame, it doesn't work. Are you okay? 2 times Akusia doesn't. 2 times Maoli doesn't work. Are you okay? So Boolean is also true or false. So with true or false, so the computer has a way of storing everything we give to it. And so these are called the data types. Are you okay? All right. So when you are storing values, remember that in your program, you declare the variables to store the values. And the values are actually of a certain type called the data type, right? Great. Example is double type is this one. Integer is this. Remember, if you don't know integer from primary school, this is not the time. Are you okay? Nobody's going to forgive you. Long is a very large integer. Okay. Didn't talk about single. Okay. But variable t store single. String. So here, in fact, everything you see here is character. All these things are characters. If I copy this and put it in Microsoft Word, it will count the number and tell me 250 characters, and it will count. In fact, the space will be counted. So you can see that in between T and stores, there's one space, but that will be considered to be a character. If I put in underscore plus, all these are now characters. Are you with me? So remember that when we want to store these characters, which in fact, even these guys, look at it. If someone is a Chinese, all these don't mean anything to them. So they are what we call the different. You have the Unicode, yeah. You have the Chinese character. They are character sets. You're right. Okay, but that's not my focus in this class, so I didn't prepare for that. But that's not what we need at the moment. Just let's take note of the fact that in programming, we can deal with different data types. And when we see a particular number, you should say, okay, this number, sometimes numbers can even appear as if they are string. Let me give you an example. Everything here can be considered as one string. But if we separate it, we'll be having, these are numbers. So if our interest is in the numbers, then 147 should be stored separately. If you store all this with the commas, it can be considered as a number. Anyway, so spaces are characters. So you can use Microsoft Word to count and see the number of characters if you're just interested. Last topic that is Very important. I think we are moving at a certain pace. Guys, take note of that. And it's okay. I think it's not a big deal. Last thing that we're talking about it, then we go in, is your mathematical operators. I believe you remember BODMAS. BODMAS is what this topic is about. Operator precedence, operators, and operator precedence is the next topic. Are you okay? So we can have different type of operators. The operators that primary school GSS they know, and you can't even worry them too much, is the comparison operator greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Those are called comparison operators. Then they also know arithmetic operators, which is plus, minus, division. Okay. But then the rest, I think they'll get a little bit confused, like the logical operators. The assignment operators, I think I've touched on it, equal sign, double, you can use a double equal sign in some programs. Comparison operators, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, greater than. Then you can have concatenation operators, which are used to combine characters. Okay, so what it means is that there is this 4-9s question that comes in examination a lot of times. So you are asked that, okay, if dime tx1 are string, dime tx2 a string, excuse me, tx1 equal to. So normally if you have a string, you use double quotation mark. So 4 tx, so now 4 is not a number, it's a character, equal to okay, so you put 49 here. This is what normally happens in the particular exam question that has dropped like 45 times. It shouldn't drop again anywhere. Then you have ERS here. Okay, so concatenating operators, I'm talking about, follow me. Most of you want to teach, you don't follow, so you get lost. So take note of this. TX combi, combination of tests. That's what I mean. So when these are variable names, maybe someone is wondering what is TS1. Don't even ask me. I'm writing my own variable names, and I'm now giving what values to it. So TST combi equal to TX1 plus TX2. Now, what's going to happen is that you end up with 49ers. And 49ers is actually the name of a team in the US, I think so. So if you go online and you type 49ers, I think you see a football team. But the whole idea was to just test you. So like me putting Kotoko and putting the KO. So in this, if I want to do a concatenation operation to tease you in exam, I can, if I'm a Kotoko fan, I'll put KO here. Then I'll put Toko here. So Ko and Toko. Then but the answer is actually Kotoko. You get it? Which is actually a team in Ghana. That's the same thing with the 49ers. Concatenation is joining strings together. So Kotoko. Okay. So this is programming for you. Okay. Programming for men. I don't know. I don't want to sound sexist, but we have these concatenation operators. We have the comparison operators simply do greater than or equal to, then the answer is a Boolean. Okay, remember Boolean is true or false. Okay, so here, in fact, here we are using an exponential. 2 raised to the power 3. So this operator is another one you guys should take note of. You can find this by pressing Shift and the number key 6 on the keyboard. Okay, and then yes, this one is this asterisk is multiplication. So these are arithmetic operators, right? Now logical operators use AND and OR. Okay, so we have logical or bitwise operators, bitwise, bits, zeros and ones. Okay, so you can actually take examples of how to do this. Division sign. Okay. Now look at this one. Integer division. Divides two numbers and returns an integer result. Anyway, so that's an interesting one. It's different from 4 divided by 3. I can't find my division sign. Let me forget about it. But remember that division sign is forward slash. It's not a backward slash. All right. So basically, this is how programming works. You evaluate expressions, and then whether they are true or false, then something is done. Decision is made. A repetition is made. Okay, but then at the moment where we are, the evaluating expressions require that we know of what certain data types and then the operations to apply. Okay, operators. All right. So here, 43 less than 32 is a comparison operator. 45 equal to 45 is a comparison operator. The question is that is 45 equal to 45? True. So TST result, which is the variable, becomes true. Then we have 4 not equal to 3. True or false? True. So the result here is what? True. 5 greater than that. What do you think that's going to be? We are trying to compare strings. Okay, so maybe string length, but this one is a tricky one. I'm not even going to cover it. It depends on a particular system. I don't think that is really as good. Now here, with everything that I've taught you and you being quiet on me and everything, you can see that the text box property, the text box object has a property test, and that gives you the test which is inside the text box. Is being assigned to the variable num1, not the num1 that we know in Ghana. That num1 has been defined up here as num1, num2. Okay, I'm sure some people are angry hearing this. If you invested with that company called what? Oh, is it called? Anyway, let's move on. It's our business. We have other variables called difference, but I would have called it diff. Okay. All right, instead of that long difference. Yeah, so when you're naming variables, let it look cute. For a product, could have been called PDT, something like that. Just get away with it. With variable names, you don't have to meet grammatical, rules. All right. So we get user input from the text box, which is a control on the user interface. Get a text value, give it to a variable num1, num2, which are actually singles, which are some sort of integers. Then we have num1 plus num2. What would the value be? If the user put in 1 and 2, you get 3. Diff, the difference. Products, get a multiplication. So this is explaining that, okay, now there's an object called label1, which is a label, which has a text property. What does that object do? It's able to display text. So we give it a value of sum, and it will display it. That is its function. Logical operators are interesting. We are ending it on that. I'm explaining it in 2 sentences, and then when we meet again, we'll consolidate that. All of you should install the software for me. Is that okay? I want us to actually start using the software the next time we meet. Then I'll use to explain the rest of the concepts. Are you with me? But do the assignments. I've given you an assignment. Please do it. All right. So the logical operators are interesting. We have AND, then we have OR, and then we have XOR. Are you okay? We have AND also. Okay. All right. So expression 1 and expression 2. What does it mean? It means if expression 1 is true and expression 2 is true, then the result is true. So with the AND operator, this table holds. True, true is true. True, false is false. It means that for the AND operator to work, both expressions have to be true. Okay. Then there's another table for the OR operator. So in this OR operator, one of them has to be true for it to be true. Otherwise, then if the two are false, then of course the result is false. True or true is true, true or false is true, false or true is true, and false or false is false. Okay, so this one you can just play around with it. You can have a group discussion and you get it. Guys, so that is it. The Zoom meeting is ending and we are ending on this one. To be continued, we have the XOR. The XOR says that one of them should be false, one should be true. Can you imagine? So it means that true XOR true is false. It wants one to be false and the other to be right. There are conditions like that. When you look at the lighting switches in our houses, some of them work like that. You have to put one on at one door and then the other one has to be off before the thing will be on. You know, it's around us, right? Some of the things we are teaching. So guys, save your questions. You can text them to me on WhatsApp. You can ask me next time we meet, but do the assignment. I hope you know what it is, right? Determine the bearing between two control stations. I wish you the best. Have a good night, and then let's get in touch. We will look more at these things before we carry on in our next lecture.